The trial was over. Matt stared at the implacable gray wall in front of him, unwilling to turn the ignition key and break the stunned silence that had followed him from the battered courtroom to the empty garage. It was remarkable how quiet it could get when a jury said no to parents who had lost their only child. Matt couldn't exercise the expression on the faces of his clients when the verdict was read. They were completely shattered. There was nothing Matt could do to ease their pain. Now they had to put their lives back together, and he had to find a way to pay the rent. Jamie had been alive when Jim and Mary Olson first came to talk with him about the drug that had destroyed their son's liver. Their doctor had received no warning from the manufacturer that the medication he ordered for Jamie had previously caused the death of several children. In Matt's office, the little guy had been so excited about riding in a genuine cable car. After 2 years of Matt beating his head against the company's corporate brick wall, the case finally got to trial. By then, Jamie had died. Matt never had the chance to give him the model cable car he bought him for his 7th birthday. On the eve of the trial, the pharmaceutical giant finally made a reasonable offer. Matt had advised his clients to settle. Mary would have been happy to have the case over, but Jim wanted retribution. Matt pulled out all the stops to give them the justice they deserved. His clients had depended on him, and he had lost. His stomach twisted. He hated to lose, and knew this case would continue to haunt him. Scenes from the trial were going to replay in his head forever. Losses left a void that his victories never quite filled. 5 o'clock. Emily, his office manager, would be anxious for him to get back to the office. He needed to deal with a pile of work and clients who had felt neglected during the trial. He thumbed through the stack of papers Emily had given him to go through, anything to take his mind off what had just happened. It was mostly bills, of course. He saw a circled note about some new case she wanted him to call a lawyer about. She had underlined the words "game changer." Yeah, right, he had heard that before. He turned the key and the blazer jumped to life. He headed home to change his clothes. Work could wait. He needed a dose of the bridge. Matt parked next to the St. Francis Yacht Club. He stretched by the seawall, savoring the panorama and acrid tang of the moist air. The pastel city cascaded down the hillside to meet the white-capped bay. Fleets of sailboats wheeled around their marks, their crisp Dacron sails thundering in rapid succession. The competitors heeled, close-hauled into the northwesterly gale. They angled toward the Golden Gate Bridge, its massive columns silhouetted by shafts of sunlight. Further down the beach, sailboards skimmed between the racers and the ferryboats, a kaleidoscope of dorsal fins dodging back and forth across the wind. A tendril of fog extended under the bridge, tentatively testing the resolve of the warm afternoon. All around him, people were running, walking, or bicycling to and from the distant towers. The balmy weather had obviously put a serious dent in the city's afternoon workforce. He felt the darkness coiled within him gradually begin to release as he ran toward the dying sun. He recognized runners and walkers he literally only knew in passing. Most runners, he had noticed, acknowledged only other runners, and walkers other walkers. Seldom did crossbreed socialization occur. Their dogs were more egalitarian. A running magazine pundit had once opined that this stretch of beach had more beautiful women per mile than anywhere except Malibu. Today, Matt could almost believe it. Running through the pain of 3 exercise-free weeks of trial, he gradually became anesthetized by his surging endorphins. Near the end of his run, he saw his favorite fantasy approaching. He'd first noticed her a few months ago. She usually wore shapeless winter sweats. At first, he almost didn't recognize her in the colorful lycra. A large-brimmed running hat pulled low over sunglasses couldn't quite conceal her prominent cheekbones, smooth olive skin, and elegant nose. He smiled at her as she passed, but for naught. She acknowledged no one as she ran, at least never him. Well, given the reality of his life, why should she? He was a divorced father, close to 40, with more gray hair than he would like. He hadn't been in a serious relationship since his marriage. He'd cobbled together a reasonably successful law practice, but he always seemed to be on the edge financially. Now that he had lost this case, he was going to be well over that edge.